Good morning, everybody. Justin Stivers here, owner of the Probate Law Firm. Very excited today to have Mr. Jack Hickey. Jack, what's going on, sir?
Hi, how are you,
Good,
Justin?
good to have you on here.
Thanks for having me.
No, thank you. So I wrote down a couple of things because, as we were talking earlier, I don't think I've seen a resume as impressive and as long as yours. And the amount of organizations that you've been in, former president of Dade County Bar Association, board certified, Admiralty and Maritime, board certified trial lawyer, board of governors, everything. So I don't know how you have time to do anything else, but impressive. So I'm very excited to have you on here today. We're talking law, we're talking about maritime, the type of work that you do, personal injury. But where I always like to start is how'd you get into this world? How'd you get into law school and all of that?
My father was a lawyer, and he passed away when I was in college, and I was sort of casting about for what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, and I thought this probably, having nothing to do with the fact that my father was a lawyer and that other people in my family are, I thought, well, this probably accommodates my skill sets, which is to say, I couldn't play an instrument.
Right.
I really didn't have an interest in medical school. Didn't know anything about business, but I knew that I could think analytically and argue.
Sure.
So I think thinking analytically and arguing, or actually that's a bad word, that's a misused word, but persuading in a verbal way, I think and in a written way, are useful and useful in law.
And did you know you wanted to do personal injury cruise ship litigation, or that just kind of fell into it?
So I just fell into that. Actually, in law school, we go through life and we make these decisions, these life-altering decisions based on such a small set of data, right?
Sure.
I mean, it's crazy, really. We choose, I think I want to go to this school, or I think I want to do this, I want to be a fireman, I want to be a candlestick maker, I want to be a neurosurgeon, based on what? Based on, truth be told, a lot of these decisions for all of us are based on, I met this person once who was a neurosurgeon or a candlestick maker.
I ended up at my undergrad because I was dating a girl at the time, and it didn't work out. That's the only reason I went to that school.
There you go. There you go. We make these life-changing decisions based on either a small set of data or on happenstance. Right. I mean, it's just so random. We don't always. But I guess that's okay. Because I certainly have made a tremendous number of mistakes and missteps in my life, and continue apparently to make them. It's just, I think the key. Well, I think the key, I'm only half kidding about that, but I think the key is to recover. How do you recover?
Right.
How do you learn from that? That's the key. Babe Ruth was not only the home run king, he was also the strikeout king. He struck out a lot.
Yeah.
But boy, when he hit the ball, he really hit the ball.
Right.
So, and Abraham Lincoln, if you look at, I love these stories, if you look at everything Abraham Lincoln did before he became president of the United States, he lost so many things. He lost a run for Congress. He lost another run for elected office, and we know about his personal losses while in office and before that. So, I mean, he's an example, another example of someone who just goes through loss. And, you could say, so much as perspective, you could say in his life, he's a big loser. And I guess you'd be, in a way, you'd be right. You'd be half right, but you'd be all wrong because of what he did do. So, we all have setbacks, we all have losses. But anyway, getting back to your question is, I really looked around at what I wanted to do, what my skill set was, and after some other choices, I chose law. And it was based on a really small, skill set of talking to. There's this woman that I went to Florida State undergrad, graduated from Florida State undergrad, and talked to a woman who was a lawyer up there in Tallahassee, and people in my family were lawyers, and I watch TV, just like everybody. We have these vague ideas of
they
what
make it look so cool.
They make it look so cool. They make it look so cool. So yeah, and I thought when I was in law school at Duke, which is kind of a school that generates, it's a great school and everything, but it generates big firm lawyers, right? And which is most of my class. So went to big firms, actually almost all of them.
And you never went to a big firm?
I did.
Oh,
I started
out
at a big firm, right? And so what I was getting to is, I feel like I made the right decision by going to law school, but then I got out and went with a big firm, and it was a right decision for a while, for apparently a long while, because I'm a slow learner.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a humor.
Yeah,
like,
I got it.
The joke was on. Okay. So anyway, so I thought when I got out of law school, I thought I wanted to be a commercial litigator with a large law firm.
Sure.
And I did that for a while, and found I also did personal injury defense for at the same time. It was a mixed practice. So yeah, that's what I thought I wanted right when I got out of law school. And then at my first firm, we defended the railroads and the cruise lines, self-insured corporations, and that was interesting. And then I continued at my next firm with commercial litigation and defense, and then started my own firm doing that, doing
doing it on the other side.
Doing commercial litigation for companies and defense of mainly cruise lines at that point. And so then I realized this is not what I want to be doing.
Okay.
And I made the change. After 17 years of defending corporations. Yeah, that's the slow learner part. Absolutely. It's like, I tell people, if you want to know how to conduct your life and your career, look at exactly what I've done and don't do it.
So cruise ship, you came from that world, I guess, in beginning.
Right. Right.
And I think that's such a unique kind of niche area. So why stick with it? What do you like about the cruise ship litigation side? Assuming you do, hopefully you do at least.
Yes, of course. I love what I do,
okay.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah.
It's a good thing for anybody to love what they do, whatever it is, whether it's candlestick making or banking or litigation. I got started in the cruise ship world defending the cruise lines, and I was at an old line Florida firm called Stivers and Thompson. That's where I started. That's the firm that incorporated Carnival Cruise Line Inc. in 1972.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's before my time, but I got there, and that was one of their clients, and so I sort of was introduced to that world a little bit, then developed them as a client of my own, and developed other cruise lines as clients. What do I like about it? It's an interesting world. It's a peculiar set of laws. The maritime law is peculiar in the sense of it's separate and apart from other fields. Mm-hmm. Similar, there are some similarities, but of course there are traps for the unwary. You really have to know the law in order to avoid the mistakes.
Yeah.
I like it because it is representing. Frankly, it's representing David versus Goliath.
Right.
As is a lot of plaintiffs' work.
I was going to say, because that's the same, and you don't only do cruise ship litigation, you do...
No, but the overwhelming majority, like 65-70% is cruise line work. The other 30% is general negligence, as long as, frankly, they are life-changing injuries. We've represented people who have serious traumatic brain injury with parts of their skull missing, parts of their brain missing. We've represented people who suffered serious life-changing orthopedic and neurological injuries. Mm-hmm. So if the injuries are very significant, then that's a case that fits us.
Has the so for me, I do probate, and we branded our firm the Probate Law Firm and all of that.
Right.
So the move to do probate is very intentional, like, branding wise. Has your move and how you've become so known in the cruise ship world, has that been very intentional, and you're very specific? You want to be known as the cruise ship guru?
Right. Yes. And I know that probate, like cruise ship, I mean, the similarities are that if you want to specialize,
right.
There's no dabbling in probate.
No.
There's no dabbling in probate. That's my impression.
Yeah.
Coming from somebody who's never written a will.
Yeah.
And never intends to.
Okay. We'll
talk
about that later.
Write.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
And that's a specialty.
Yeah, sure.
Cruise ship is also something you should not dabble in.
Yeah.
Because there's really three specialties involved here, right? One specialty is the maritime law, which you have to know. You have
right.
to know maritime law because that's what governs everything that happens on the cruise ship, basically, number one. Number two is you have to know personal injury. You have to know the injuries, and you should know as much as the orthopedic surgeon, neurosurgeon, neurologist, or whatever specialty is treating it. And if you don't, you need to learn it. And then the third thing is federal court practice. Most of the cruise ship cases end up in federal court. Some don't, but most do. And federal court practice is really different. So
that scares me.
Yeah, well, it's different. It's the rules are different, and there are many layers of rules, at least for the lawyers. So it's again a trap for the unwary.
So shifting a little bit, like I was saying in the beginning, you're involved in a million organizations. Again, is that driven by interest? You're just interested in being a part of those organizations? Is that partly interested in, obviously, when you have your own practice, you have to get out there, get your name known, be known, and I'm sure kind of like in your world, my world, a lot of business, it comes from other attorneys' referrals. So
right.
I guess two questions, what was your interest originally in getting involved in so many organizations, and how do you find time to do it?
Well, you have to, as far as the time, Benjamin Franklin said the only time you have is the time you make. And so, and people say, how do I get involved with the Florida Bar? How do I get involved with the Florida Justice Association or the American Association for Justice? And, every journey begins with the first step, and you have to sort out which committees you want to get involved in and join that organization, join that committee, work your way up to being a chair of that committee, and then you go on from there. Okay, why do I do it? When I was at the big firm, it was long hours. You're doing the same, you're doing a lot of different things, a lot of different cases, and that's interesting. It was just, is seeing the same people, good people, but the same people in the firm. And I don't know what it was. I got started being involved in the Dade County Bar Association, and then, after years and years, worked my way up, and I became and was president.
Sure.
But I felt it was like fulfilling. I felt it was like close the circle. It was just like, wow. Being a lawyer is great. Going to court is great. Getting the accolades at the firm, pleasing the clients and everything is great. But when you get out and you join a bar, you meet other lawyers and you learn about them.
Right.
And it's a non-competition situation.
Right. You're not on the other side of the computer sending a nasty email to opposing counsel.
You're not that, but not only that.
Yeah.
And I tell people this, look, come on. I was at big firms. I know there's competition within the firms,
right.
Especially in the first few years. You're being compared, your billable hours are being compared to the billable hours of the associate next door, the associate across the hall. Let's face it, that's a competitive situation. Sure. And when you get out to the bar association, you're not meeting somebody who is trying to outbill you.
Right.
In the firm. You're meeting somebody who is just does it differently or is involved in a different area of practice or even your own practice. And it's interesting to hear their take on it. I just found it fun. I just found it fun and fascinating, and it's like, wow, it's like opening. It's just like sharing different perspectives on it,
Okay, just a couple more questions. What motivates you?
Well, I mean, I guess I could say, helping others, which does, but a lot of, deep down,
right.
I mean, I have a fear of failure.
Okay.
I mean, it's, is this, are you a psychologist? So, no.
We don't have to go that deep. Yeah.
But, in all honesty, I mean,
yeah.
I've told people, I think it's a fear of failure. I mean, it's, I
just want to win.
And I want to win too. Yeah, it's the fear of failure and the will to win. You have to have a will to win.
Right.
You can't just look at, I don't want to fail, I don't want to fail. You have to have the will to win. And it's a personality thing. It's give me somebody who's motivated over somebody who's really smart any day of the week.
Sure.
I would love to have and work with and be, somebody who's motivated and smart, but give me the right personality any day of the week over fancy education or even intelligence, although you do need a certain amount of raw intelligence, to do anything, I suppose, but certainly
especially this field, what's next for you?
Well, that's funny. I mean, that's, I will be soon off the Board of Governors of Florida Bar.
Okay.
For the first time in many, many years. Gonna get.
You've been in since like 2008.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and I'm gonna get more and more involved in trial lawyer organizations, and I'm going to continue to try cases and we still have, and I have mountains to climb as far as goals for verdicts.
We were talking in music, learning instruments.
And music, yes, I'm in the middle of, which I have been almost all my life. As I've told you, that comes under the heading of slow learner.
Right.
I'm trying to learn how to play guitar, and piano is my new thing.
Okay.
At this rate, I'm going to be 476 years old by the time I learn how to play basic guitar and piano. But that's just
on the radar.
That's just it's on the radar.
Okay,
it's a goal.
And I always like to leave. Like I know there's a lot of attorneys watching, solo small law firms, and you've obviously built a very successful practice. Is there any couple pieces of advice, one major piece of advice that you would give to someone maybe who's starting their own firm or has their own firm and they're trying to take it to the next level? Any suggestions?
Yeah, I mean, I do believe that there's a formula for success in everything, and so you have to find that formula. And part of the formula is always going to be persistence. People say hard work. Of course, hard work, but you don't want to be, as I feel like I did in the first part of my practice, you don't want to be climbing the ladder of success only to realize when you get to the top that it was leaning against the wrong wall, right? I think we've all had those situations, or some of us have had situations where we're just trying, and then, like for the first 17 years of my practice was with the big firms, and then my own firm billing by the hour. It's just not me. It wasn't a good fit for me. I can do it, but it was not a good fit.
Yeah.
So I think that's the one thing is you've got to choose something which enhances or you can enhance with your inherent skills. That's number one. And number two, which is gonna, at the end of the day, it's gonna make you feel fulfilled. And then you have to work hard and persist.
Yeah.
And persistence is a big thing. I mean,
it's key.
I mean, I think when people say, "Oh, are you?" When they use the successful, when they use that term, for me, I honestly, I'm not. This is not false modesty or anything. I look around to see who they're talking about because I don't think it's me. I haven't gotten there yet. I'll let you know when I get there. That's just. But you've got to continue to move forward and to be persistent.
Yeah. There's no end destination. It's constantly moving.
There's no end destination. And persistence pays. I mean, you've probably heard that phrase coined, but it's so true. Persistence. Success is what there's the old saw. Success is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. And boy, that's really true. I mean, the inspiration, yeah, you got to get the right goal, right? And then the perspiration is you just got to work it. You got to work it.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, and so obviously, we talked about cruise ship litigation, general personal injury matters. What's the best way for maybe people out there watching to get in touch with you, either for referral, if they've got something for you, or pick your brain or anything like that? What's the best way to get in touch?
I mean, they can. Anybody can call me. Obviously, it's hickeylawfirm.com. The phone number is there. 305-371-8000. They can email, but calling the office is probably a great thing. I talk to attorneys all the time, and I always return calls. If an attorney has a problem, I take a lot of calls from my so-called competitors, who I give them. We chat about trial ideas, trial technique.
Are you tricking them though? Is that like a
No, not at all, not at all. In the plaintiff's field, once you have the case, once the other person has the case, they're no longer a competitor. They have the case. True. So now we're colleagues. Yeah. And I take calls all the time from local attorneys who, who are competitors. And I also take, but they're really colleagues. And I also take calls from lawyers all across the country who either want to refer me a case or just have questions. Yeah. Unfortunately, I also take calls from attorneys who have messed up something or blown the statute of limitations, and I counsel them or ask them questions about, well, what was the value of the case anyway? Maybe that's not a case anybody would take. Right. So anyway.
So you're very, very accessible. Jack, I appreciate your time, man. Pleasure speaking with you,
Justin.
brother.
Yeah.
When you get the guitar, piano status up, let's play a little bit, and maybe we'll do another one of these, playing a song or something.
I'd love to do that.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.